Has there been a moment where you were like, I'm done? What did you love the most about me in the beginning, and has that changed? How would you describe true love? How did you find couples therapy? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast. This is Nyla here. And today I have such a special guest. No, but really, he is such a special guest. This is Oliver Webb. I can't believe you're here. I'm so excited. I'm also nervous. My palms are sweating, probably because I had way too much coffee with you earlier. Hi, Ollie.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me come on.
Oh, thank you. Okay, wait. So before anything, I have to do the intro because you're an amazing person, but I'm not going to lie. I did have to go on your Wikipedia page only because I know you, but you've done so much. You have done way too many things for people to list. I had to
single out.
Yeah, single out some things, but I couldn't anyway. If you guys don't know who Oliver is a British racing driver who began his career in karting at the age of only 9 years old. He has since raced in numerous world-renowned championships such as World Endurance Championship, Indy Lights, British Formula 3, Euro Cup, Formula Renault. Did I say that right? Renault. Mm-hmm. Dubai 24-Hour, GT Cup, European Le Mans, and many, many more. He's also the brand ambassador for W Motors, Texaco, and Michelin. He also happens to be my husband, my best friend, and my baby daddy.
Oh.
Please welcome Ollie Webb. Woo! How did I do with
that? Was a very flattering introduction.
Really?
And the last bit was very much appreciated.
Ah, yes. I'm so proud of you. You have done way too many things in your life. You need to slow down. I think it's because the intros can't keep getting longer next time you come. No, I'm serious. You are amazing. You've done some incredible things, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I love you is because you are so passionate. How does one get in a go-kart like at 9 years old? Like, I want to know the true story. Did your parents put you in the go-kart, or were you like, Mom, Dad, I really want to go?
No, it was nothing to do with them or family, and that's a big thing in motorsport is that it normally comes from within the family. You have these super famous names.
Dad was, Grandpa was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have like Surtees, Fittipaldi, all these famous names. And people, obviously, they've got a passion for it. So in the end, their sons or daughters end up seeing that passion. They see that it makes their parents happy, and then they want to do it as well. But
so that wasn't the case?
No, that wasn't the case. I ended up, the first time I got in a go-kart was on a family holiday. And I finally was tall enough in south of France, family holiday, because my mum's side of the family is French, as you know. And I was finally tall enough to get in the go-kart that the last 2 years, my dad and brother every now and then would go into it like a little circus go-kart track, on some tarmac at a fair. And I got in and I beat them. And they were like, what's going on here?
Did that give you like a high and you were instantly like, I know?
I'd never experienced it before. And it wasn't the winning that gave me the high necessarily. It was just something that I felt immediately not only good at, but without effort good at.
Oh, so you obviously you sensed there was talent.
Yeah. I sensed there was talent, and I sensed that there was ability to add knowledge to this talent to make it better at quite a young age. And I didn't have anything at that point that I was super into.
Yeah.
Did you have something at that age that I know you were into anime, and I know you were into, obviously when you were young, you have things you're into, but was there did you have a thing that you were specifically focused on and passionate about?
Acting, performing. I was just like how Callie is now. Our daughter is 2. And I just see myself in her because I just wanted people to look at me. And it was like, look at me, I'm dancing, look at me. And then I would make really funny jokes when the adults were around, and if they would laugh. And then I wanted to be popular in my school. I wasn't. It was the complete opposite. But I really wanted to be surrounded by people and for me to perform. But there was also an aspect where I definitely had a wild side. So now looking back, I'm I can see that girl becoming a skydiver. If there was one thing that you can kind of feel was extremely important in making you who you are as a successful racing driver, you'd have to say, obviously it's hard to pin it down to one thing, but what do you think really, really did it with you? Other than obviously you've got natural talent of being really quick, but what do you think makes a really, really successful racing driver, because there's good drivers out there, but they're not successful.
Yeah. Does it have to be 1 point, or can it be a couple?
It could be a couple, of course.
Okay, so if we put like natural talent aside,
Right.
in any sport, you can put natural talent to one side. In this day and age, with the access we have to everything, even what we're doing now that can be heard tomorrow or tonight or whenever it gets uploaded, I think for me, the biggest change, even just as social media was creeping in, was contacts and people, and no one will know your talent. Networking, exactly. No one knows your talent unless you can show that talent. And if you're relying purely on, if you're in college football or basketball or whatever sport you're in, or racing, on the people that are there and then at that track at grassroots level, spreading your talent, or the Wikipedia page showing where you finished, it's not enough.
Yeah.
So obviously social media is a great gain for that. You have a good page, you win a race, you tell everyone you've run a race. 100,000 people, 1 million people know, depending on your followers. Back in the day when social media was only just starting, and it was like Facebook and Bebo and MSN Messenger, and that was kind of like our era of social media, just before and as Instagram was coming out and everything else, it was going to all of the quote unquote kind of old school functions and events that I was maybe a little bit too young to be going at.
But you had to go, putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily have to go. I just thought, well, okay, there's...
You wanted to.
Yeah, there's maybe 10 championships that people have won this year, and I'm one of them. How do I make them know my name more than the other 9? So a lot of the partners and sponsors I have, and a lot of the success I've had, I know is because I had the talent. But also I know that there's maybe 100 other people that have done just as good as me in various other championships. But I put myself out there so that I was the name on the top of their tongue when it came to making those decisions.
Yeah, and there was a lot of things that you had to do other than that. I didn't realize that with motorsport you have to like bring in sponsorships consistently, and you have to fight for your seat, and there's a lot of like emotional stress. Obviously there's physical stress, but mentally you need to really, really have it in your core to keep going, don't you? And that's one of the things I look up to you for. And I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you've been knocked down many times, just as any other driver has, but you keep going and you always come out of it better and stronger, and you're always, winning. And I don't know how you do it. What is that like little niggle? Like, what's that thing that makes you keep going?
It is a tough balance. I think there's in order to be good in this sport or any sport, that there is an innate need to be the best in the world, but singularly the best in the world. You somehow want to be the one person that's the best in the world. You want to be the Michael Jordan or the Kobe or whatever.
Right.
But on the flip side, I know you said when you get kicked down, and motorsport is different in the sense that, let's say when you get to Formula One, there is 22, 24 people in the world at the top of that sport, rather than 30, 40 people on a football team, and then there's 100 teams, and then there's different countries that play it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's so much more finite in that sense, but the ability to be able to kind of keep getting back up and focusing on it is because I have to keep reminding myself in a positive way that when I was that kid karting, I would dream that it would be a career. So every time it's like Lego blocks, I keep making a new foundation. My foundation when I came out of karting and got into a scholarship for Formula BMW is, okay, right, this is my new foundation, and this is the lowest I ever want to go again. So I need to remember that this is what I dreamed of once, and now it's my new foundation. So then now my foundation is, providing a living for us and our family, and together doing that and making it my career, and then just being in a better championship each time. So if I win a championship, I'm like, right, that's my new foundation. I want to at least be always European Le Mans champion or whatever I am, and then go from there. So if I lose the next championship, I need to look back and go, well, it took me 15 years to get to the point I was just at. So then I get happy again, I remind myself, and then I can focus forwards. And I know there's a million people that would want to be in this position. So
yeah, it's what I have two things I call Ollie math, which is the way you make numbers. You beautify numbers for me sometimes if something needs to make sense, or you do the opposite if something doesn't need to make sense. Or Ollie logic, which is my favorite. Ollie logic is the best because your logic is basically like that. You're like, hold on, it took me this long to get to here. Now I've been knocked down, but now I need to remember that it's going to, like, nobody taught you this. You just kind of, Yeah,
but it kind of reflects from that into life. And I'm sure you can obviously through everything you've experienced, you can put yourself in those shoes. I think you're always chasing. So I've met because of the world I'm in motorsport and in this kind of extravagant paddock life, is you meet some incredibly insanely wealthy people who look like they have everything, but sometimes they're the most unhappy people. And I know a lot of people have heard that before, and kind of the phrases that go alongside it, but it's so true. And I think the journey is a big part of that, and you're always going to be on it. So I think thinking there is an end goal, that if I became a world champion or European Le Mans champion again, that then it will solve any doubts or self-doubts, and everyone has self-doubts. It doesn't. So I need to enjoy it along the way. So I need to keep reminding myself of that. And the great thing is if you can get to a point where reminding yourself of that and how far you've come and being happy with where you are doesn't halt where you want to go, which I think is great. Obviously, everyone will probably see your page and what you do, and skydiving and traveling and going to the most amazing places, and now with your own jewelry line and everything else. It's obviously, you must hear it a million times. It's tough, I guess, when you hear, oh, you must be so happy with X, Y, and Z. But
yeah.
You're very, and so am I, super self-critical. So you're always looking at, what can I make better?
Yeah. And I think the most important thing that I learned from you, which you just mentioned as well, is like, I've always been so obsessed with the end. And like, I'm such a daydreamer, and I'm thinking, okay, you're like, be proud of yourself. Take a moment to give yourself some credit. But I go, no, wait, but it has to be this, because my goal is I want to be here. I want to be selling a lot for my jewelry company. I want my podcast to be number one, blah, blah, blah. But I'm focusing so much on the end goal that I'm putting so much current pressure on the present, which is not really allowing me to be happy. And that's something I really struggle with all the time. I am lucky to have a partner like you that can kind of like get me out of it. Obviously, and we'll get to this, in a relationship, you have to like voice what's going on, because I used to just kind of be quietly like pressuring myself, feeling like shit all of a sudden. Even though I'm doing good things, it was always that, wait a minute, I haven't finished, it's like worrying about the end of Le Mans without actually making sure you're putting in the hard work first, and then you won't,
and then you don't enjoy the end result which you wanted in the first place, because you weren't in the right frame of mind during it.
Yes.
It's not an interesting or wanted to be listened to podcast if you're stressed and looking at notes and not enjoying it, and not enjoying the guest or the person or the amazing people you get to speak to.
Totally.
Because it does have to be natural in that way.
100%. I'm really learning this all now. So I have one last career question that I'm going to ask you before we get to the questions that are going to be super deep and you might want to leave, but it's okay. You can leave if you want.
I've got quick
answers. No, I'm kidding. One thing I've always wanted to know, and I've never gotten to ask you, is in your entire career up until now, has there been a moment where you were like, I'm done? Like, I don't want to do this?
No, never.
Wow.
Never. There's been moments where I have confusing thoughts or doubts, like, oh, I really didn't enjoy, I don't know, Le Mans this time. But you don't enjoy it. I don't know, maybe like runner's high. I don't have runner's high because I don't run enough, but it's the pain of doing it. And I find this when I go and do something that's like, for instance, I've just come from Italy and done a classic race weekend with a teammate of mine, Guy, and it was so fun. And yes, I took it seriously and tried my best, but because it wasn't my main championship and it was a casual and inverted weekend, it's my kind of side job to what I do in my main career, I enjoyed the physical driving so much more. Maybe because I'm going 150 mile an hour less, because I'm in an old classic car going down the straight. I have time to actually think presently. Also, I know I'm kind of deviating in a million different directions, but part of the reason why I enjoy it so much is because of the spare mental capacity I have from the talent I've built up to drive that car in a way where I can consciously drive it instead of subconsciously drive it. It becomes more enjoyable. Whereas during Le Mans, during my main career, this comes back to your question about have I ever not wanted to do it? No, but sometimes I don't enjoy it, which sounds weird to say, because it's so physically and mentally grueling at the time. When it's done and I look back, I go, I'm so glad I did that, and that's an amazing feeling. Maybe like a marathon runner would think. I don't know if they enjoy it while they're doing it.
Exactly. That's something also that I learned recently, and it was like, you don't always, I think we have an expectation. I was like, I'm not enjoying this. And again, I do this really badly, which is I give up too quickly. If I start to be like, wait, but this is my passion, but I really didn't enjoy it the last few days, and this is my past me thinking, is I used to be like, well, I'm maybe it's not meant for me because I'm not enjoying it right now. This means that it's not meant for me, and then I give up. And this is so wrong, because when you do things that you love, it doesn't mean that you have to enjoy them thoroughly every single day, but you still have the deep foundation of loving that thing.
Well, exactly. It goes back to, if it was easy, everyone would do it, which is such a common phrase, but it is so true.
Yeah.
And it's not rewarding if it's easy either.
Yeah. So
like if it was so easy and came so naturally, where's the reward afterwards?
Yeah. So speaking about things that are easy and aren't easy.
Skydiving.
No. We're going to talk about relationships. So I wrote down some questions of things that, you know, I wanted this to be like a quick kind of fire and stuff that we haven't talked about before, but
I haven't seen any of these, by the way.
Let's just make a pact that I know, that's why I didn't want to show it to you. Make a pact, no hard feelings on it at any point.
Maybe.
Okay, so my first question, what did you love the most about me in the beginning, and has that changed?
If it's not immediate and when I started falling in love with you, I think your passion, not as in for skydiving what you were doing, but your passion for things was stronger than people that I'd met before.
That's the Lebanese side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your passion on both sides, but obviously because we'd just fallen in love, your passion was mainly always a positive passion.
Yeah.
So therefore that's what I was seeing and that's what I was in love with.
Did that change now?
I had more positives to go to. We can skip straight to that part if you want. No, you're still just as passionate about the positive parts.
Can I have your water?
But naturally, there you go. See, sharing.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to drink it now. That's all the coffee you've had. I did tell you that those coffee beans are strong.
Honestly, I think you can hear my heartbeat on the microphone.
I hate that. I get.
I kind of like it. It's weird. I should dive into it. I should unpack why I like it.
Why you like coffee?
It didn't change. I'm still passionate.
It didn't change. It just what you're passionate about, both positive and obviously when not only are we obviously married, we now have a baby as well. So you're passionate in both sides. So now I can see the extremes of both sides and the emotion that you get from both sides.
And what didn't you like? Was there like let's be completely honest. Everybody sees red flags, and I know I'm covered in them. I know that there's a lot that come along with me. Did you see like a red flag at some point in our relationship in the beginning, and you were like, "Ooh, that's
yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to put up with that shit." And
wait, I said yes too quickly. Wait.
It's okay. We said no hard feelings, and we really meant it.
My red flag and well, at least there's some consistency. It's still there. Which is that when I first met you, is that you were so exciting and passionate and wanted to travel the world and everything you did. And luckily, everything I was doing was new to you as well because of the racing and because of the travel and everything. So it naturally fit that we were doing exciting things, traveling all the time. My red flag at that point was, like, how am I going to be able to keep this up? Because, like, I love this girl and I love these adventures with her. But also this is my career. So at the moment I was sacrificing a little bit of the weekends and the things I was doing and traveling a little bit early to those race weekends or
so that we can have
so we can have those memories and build them. But I was so not used to that because I hadn't ever let well, not just a girlfriend, but I hadn't ever let another human in so close to my race weekends and the places I was going and my spare time, because my spare time, like I was saying earlier on, everything I did was dedicated purely to making sure that I was winning.
Yeah, you were very happy being, and that's how I knew you liked me, is because you did bring me into this private space of yours. Because when I first met you, you were, well, I guess that's the answer to the same question. I'm answering it now. Is that you were very, very independent, and coming from relationships where I had a lot of people, I was in a codependent relationship where the other person just couldn't like do anything unless I was involved in it. It was so refreshing to see how independent and just kind of like got your shit together, don't need to impress anyone, don't really need to kind of be inserting yourself into, that's a very heavy word here because women feel that is like when somebody hits on them or tries to go out with them, it's like you feel like this person is trying to insert themselves into your life way too quickly, and I didn't feel that with you. And then when you brought me into your private space, I felt like that meant so much more to me than it would have with anyone else, because I knew how good you were in your own space. You've got your routine, you've got your passion, you've got your track days and your races, and you go back and you do your thing, and that's always been, and you still do that.
I still do
you still do that. That's like, and so I came in with, you know, knowing that, yeah, it felt like a valuable thing that you did to bring me along with you in life. And I think the biggest thing that I feel like we are like, I don't know how to explain it, but like we were wild. We were like doing everything, and we were posting on Instagram every day, and we were loving doing like the, you know, we both didn't have this dream to be like an Instagram couple. That was never us, and that's what I like to as well. You weren't Instagrammy, like they say, but we were enjoying it, and we were posting it and everything. And then it was like, okay, this is what people don't see, is you are like this, and then the actual relationship, the actual marriage, and the actual partnership comes in, and you got to stay that strong.
Yeah.
And that's what like we kind of then started to kind of try to focus on as much as possible. But I don't think there was anything I didn't like about you. I did think that I was going to drive you crazy, and I think that stays to now. And that was, I wouldn't call it a red flag, but when I first met you, I was like, so we met in Majorca. You were randomly on a wedding. Just telling people who didn't know, you were randomly out on a wedding. I was out with my girlfriend. I DM'd you after you commented on a picture. We ended up meeting that same day. Me being the crazy person I am, had no idea where we were meeting, got you lost, got myself lost, showed up super late. You showed up with a camera, so I thought you wanted to be a photographer. And then next thing you know, we kind of started talking, and then we went out that night. I got really drunk and I kissed you. And more than kissed you, I licked your face on the first date. Licked your face. I don't know how this, like, I don't want to be one of those girls who's like, I've never done that before. But I swear to God, I have never done that before.
Or since.
I've like you're my husband later now, and I've not licked your face. Obviously, I was a bit drunk, but I did feel comfortable with you quite quickly. And then, so yeah, that's how we met. And then I think I saw this like you are so put together. And I know you hate when I say that to you, but like, I know that I'm a whirlwind because of my childhood. I've had a rough upbringing. I know that I come with a lot of baggage because I've had kind of like a lot of ups and downs in my life. I've had to navigate life on my own. I've had to learn lessons that people know when they were 7 or 8, whatever, or their parents teach them. I had to learn those lessons, maybe not at all, or learn them slowly. So I looked and I was like, I'm going to drive this man crazy. Like, is he going to be able to put up with me? And fast forward to now, you have done a fucking amazing job. You have put up with me, but we've had our ups and downs in that region where we were like, okay, I have so many ups and downs, and then you're trying to navigate why and how. But you know,
it was actually easier for me in a way, the fact that I saw you as so everything kind of like out of my league, hot, crazy, passionate girl when I first met you, or before I even met you, based off what I could see online before I was meeting this crazy girl, that it was easier to feel put together and not under pressure because I had no preconception or intention for anything that was going to happen, and that actually made it easier. And that's, I thought about that before.
Yeah, you weren't like try hard, nothing.
No, because I didn't. I said, well, there's no point in me trying hard because nothing is going to happen. And I think maybe I thought about dates that I'd been on before we ended up getting together, and I think I tried harder because I was like, oh, this seems like a good match, and this might work. But I just didn't have that. I was going to this wedding single. I was so focused on racing at the time. This was going to be a crazy 24 hours, and I'm never going to see you again because I could tell what you were doing and traveling. And anyway, you told me a little bit of your story quite quickly, so I knew I was never going to see, or I thought I was never going to see you again. Yeah. So it made it even easier to relax and be myself. But that's another reason why, separate to all of the red flags and the issues that every relationship has, and that we certainly have, is that I can rest assured in knowing that when I first met you and as we were getting to know each other, that even when we think we're different people and did I fall in love with the right person or not, that we fell in love with each other as the right people. I fell in love with you while seeing red flags and drunken emotional nights and all the things that you think of yourself as red flags. I saw all those and was falling in love with you with those because I didn't see them maybe in the same way you did. And also I was totally myself. I didn't feel like Like if you go on a date and you put on a facade, and then you got to do it again on the second date and the third date and fourth date, and you sleep together, and then all of a sudden you're together, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I had to like pretend to be this person that I'm not, and I learnt these jokes before the date, and I saved up for this to afford this place, and all of a sudden I've got to now be a different person. I was me
the whole time.
And
that's the most attractive thing. And I think that's what I think that you have never failed me in that. You've always been yourself, and that's so underrated. Like just literally being the same person. It sounds so simplified, but it really is true.
And so are you. I mean, you can be the same person. You can be a complicated person. You're still the same person. And same with me. I can be a complicated. You're like, well, that's not who you used to be. No, it's just you're the same person. It's just everyone has a lot of different.
So we've had our issues. Every couple does. It's a very unrealistic kind of view to think that couples are just happy. You know, obviously go like up and down. And do you think that Instagram or being on social media has ever put a strain on our relationship?
Sometimes I think so. I mean, I think it's certainly hard. Well, no, I'm being biased, but it's obviously based on my own experience. I'm a guy, so I'm going to base it on being a guy. But I do think it's hard if you're with. Of course, I'm going to say that my wife's good looking, but if you're with an extremely good looking person, no matter how confident you are in yourself, obviously Instagram, especially in the industry that you're in, you're a model. So, and with that comes obviously,
and that was hard for you. I remember
fault.
In the beginning, it was hard for you.
It became easier.
We've had like some arguments about it. Yeah. In the beginning, I was posting a lot of. I was still kind of like just moving out of LA, and I was posting a lot more lingerie stuff. And because I've always been free and on my own, I just couldn't at all put myself in the position of the other person, and empathize why it was kind of a little bit hard on you to be protective of me. Like, and now I look back on it, I'm like, oh, that's just because he cares. But back then, I'm like, why is he trying to be controlling?
Yeah, and on your past experience, maybe of boyfriends, maybe you had boyfriends and partners that weren't as jealous, or that weren't as bothered, or that weren't as into you, or that were really into you but didn't care about that side or liked that side. So maybe that's also like you'd built your own foundation of what a partner, the degree of jealousy a partner should have based on your life experience.
Yeah.
Which is the same for me, and vice versa for me as well.
But that's something we worked on as well. Like
it actually got easier. I think
it got so much easier.
You build trust, and you literally do build trust. And that trust went in a wave. I met you, I fell in love with you. I immediately trusted you because I had no choice and had nothing to experience it on. Then you go, okay, well, how long have I known this person? I don't actually know what she's like. You find some things out, you find some other things out. And then that goes to like this middle ground. And then you have to like build a solid foundation. You know, you've built it on nothingness in the past, and now I'm in a really comfortable place where, of course, obviously we're married, but that's just a document. It doesn't actually really mean anything in terms of how you trust someone or not.
Well, speaking of that was actually my next question. It was what did marriage mean to you? What is like your view of marriage, even since your earlier years when you were younger? What did you ever think about, okay, marriage, what does it represent to you? Was it something that you always wanted? Was it something that's just like what you said now? Is it just a document and it's more important to be like, give me your actual view on marriage. What was it in your family as well? Like, what did it represent? Because you would say you're traditionally, well, you're not traditional, but I would say you are traditionally like, you're British. So marriage there is quite important, and in that culture,
Americans don't believe in marriage?
Well, we don't believe in anything. Everything is dissected and diverse.
In terms of, was it something I thought about growing up? I think weirdly early on, like super young teenager, I was always like, oh, I'm really looking forward to having a family actually. Because I hadn't been massively ever on the dating scene. I wasn't necessarily a party animal because I was so focused on the career side of things. Then even while meeting you and beforehand, as I was going through life, it then didn't fuss me at all. I was in zero rush. And even when I met you, I knew you were the one forever. I was still in no rush. I was still in a frame of mind of, if she turns around and tells me, oh, by the way, I don't believe in marriage, I don't care, I'm still staying with you forever.
Yeah.
Or if you turn around...
It's not something that you must have.
No, absolutely not.
Which I like.
I wanted to, but if you said to me, I promise you I'm going to be with you for the rest of my life, but I don't want to get married, fine.
Yeah.
But also if you said to me, I want to get married, but I want to do it when I'm 40 because I have a mental block about it, also fine. For me, it just came, I don't know, it just came at a natural time. There was...
And it's, you're bringing me into things in life that are teaching me things that I literally just didn't know. So I have such a construed, like, kind of, what do they say? Like a damaged view of marriage from my parents. So I've watched the worst marriage on the face of the planet, and I've never really know anything else until, you know, obviously now I'm getting older and I've seen friends' parents who are happily together for 35 years and 40 years, and then we're working super hard on making sure that we're there. But I didn't really understand how people can stay together forever and just be in love, because I literally never saw that. And my parents just hated each other. So it was very hard for me to be like, because when you see it when you're a kid, you almost like subconsciously, you just make that your baseline. Yeah. You can't help it.
Yeah.
So when you proposed to me, I was like, this is honestly the first thing that went in my head was, and this is completely, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I literally was like, fuck, I gotta be a better person. And I was like, why do I think that? Why did I think that way? It's because in my head, like the first thing I told you when we were like first talking and asking each other questions at that hummus place in London, yeah. And I said to you, I think I'm gonna die when I'm 40. I don't even want to live past 40. Like I had all these things in my head where I was like kind of giving up on life. And when you proposed to me, I said, oh my God, like I had no belief in myself being able to be a good wife, because I literally didn't even know how. So now I'm like, I am really lucky to be in a relationship with somebody who can teach me a lot. And even through our worst times, and we've had some bad times recently, I have to just kind of like go back to what we said at the beginning of the podcast, which is just no, don't give up too quickly.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what we said earlier, which is the same thing. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. And you can't, okay, it's tough right now, and you can't just think to yourself, oh, okay, it's tough right now, and this is hard, so that's my mind telling me I must not want it, and then all of a sudden...
That's exactly what I saw growing up. I always saw giving up. Everything was giving up quickly. My dad, my mom, just, you know, it was everything we did. If it didn't work out, everybody gives up, and we just kind of like take it back, and then there's a lot of hate. So... I listened to a podcast recently and somebody asked a question, and it was very interesting. It was like, can two people like me and you make it in a relationship when somebody has such a bad view on so many things and their perspective has been,
skewed so much.
Skewed, yeah. Thank you. Skewed from trauma. And then somebody else who has had a structured and quite focused upbringing and has built themselves to be a lot stronger emotionally. Can it work? And people have different answers. And I feel like we're creating our answer because we want to make it work so bad, and we love each other so much. That's never changed.
Yeah. But also not only for me, not the thing that secures me in feeling better when we have tough times is not that I want it to work, because that's a given. Of course I want it to work. It's easy to want anything to be easy and to happen. But I felt I was so far, we are so different, and I felt I was so far the other way that if anything when I was younger, or not even younger, just before I met you, interfered with my one goal and focus in life, or who I was as a person, because I wouldn't change for anyone, then that doesn't fit in my life. But I knew immediately, and there's never been a doubt in my mind in any point, and we have been through some really tough times, where I'm thinking, you're so different and so far off what fits into my norm and what on paper would work. But I've never once believed that is a negative, or thought of it as, oh, you're affecting my direction of the life that I want to go in. I just constantly feel, and it sounds like a line, I do constantly feel privileged to have you in my life. Therefore, I want to now all of a sudden change what was my box to fit into because no matter how tough times get between us, I feel like life is still better with you in it.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy to move my box around to fit you back into it. And if you move, I'll just go over there and put the box back over there, because it's better with you in it than having something.
So sweet.
No, but it's true, because you can have something that before I met you, if I could have a secretary be my wife, that would be ideal. And then I could
she would
just
book all your flights.
Book all my flights. Fits in. She only gets to see me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Good what?
Good chef.
Oh, let's say good shag. Oh. Good shag. Right.
She has to be a good shag as well.
And
that's okay. You can have that as one of your boxes to
I didn't
tick.
have to move the box for that.
So, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but you are actually giving women out there a lot of hope. I'll tell you why and about what.
If I have options, I take all that back.
No,
I'm kidding.
Stop. No, what you said was so sweet. But you are giving women out there hope. I'll tell you why. Like, I hear this a lot from a lot of women and my friends, and I've thought the same thing before. It's like, do men have the capability of changing? And women ask this all the time. And I've heard that, no way. Men don't want to change. They are who they are, and especially with age, if they're older, like this is just who they. And I used to believe that too, because I've seen my mom yell at my dad to change things, and it just never changed. And I've been in relationships where I'm like, this is going to change, and I've given it hope, and it doesn't. But you have set you've painted such a different picture for me now that I can look at and be like, wait, this all I was thinking about before. I'm really finding it hard to find words today, by the way. But you did change massively in the ways that would help our relationship. And I hope I could say the same thing about myself. I'm still trying to be constantly working on myself, but you did change. You grew, and it makes women out there should have hope. You can't just meet someone and be like, that's who he is. I don't like that. It's over. You could if you work on things together, you really can change, both of you, and grow to be better people.
Yeah, and I think
I wouldn't recognize myself when I first met you if I met her now.
Yeah, no,
I wouldn't even recognize you. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't either, and I think it's tough to in hard moments. There's up and downs that happen where, and I see it in you as well. You go, okay, yes, that's changed, but that's not who he is. I want it to be who he is, and I don't want to see.
That's the hard part.
That's
like
the
when
hard
you start
part,
to find if it's sustainable or not.
Sustainable is not really the point I was going at, but yes, that's true, because you want that change to be sustainable. That's a given, fine. But I think seeing the effort into putting in the change and seeing that as enough, rather than going, okay, I see the change and he's going to do or she's going to do X, Y, and Z forever, but they're only doing it because I asked them to, and it's not who they were. Because some people are like that.
I do that sometimes,
and I think
really
that's what I'm saying. And I think that's a tough one, because if you've got someone who loves you and is changing themselves for you and consistently, okay, fine. If they do it once and they never do it again, then fine, that is wrong.
Yeah.
But if they're consistently doing that, that should be even more of a positive, taken in the fact that you love their foundation.
Yeah.
Than someone who finds it easy to do X, Y, and Z, because then they're not putting in the effort. That's who they were anyway. You find all the things that are wrong with your partner that are easy for someone else. They might do the things that were easy for the other partner and find it hard to do those bits. So I think seeing an active change should be a positive. And you shouldn't see that and go, and I'm guilty of that as well. And I shouldn't see, because we do it. I can't think of a specific situation, but let's say you do something you don't normally do, and I go, oh, it's really nice of her to do that, but I know she only did it because of X, Y, and Z. She probably won't do it next time. That's a really negative way to think about it, rather than going, I'm so glad this is like changing over time.
Yeah. A lot of it is cultural as well, and I'm not making excuses, but I have to also go back deep down and unpack reasons why.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
Totally.
Reasons why I do or say certain things. And it's very hard for me to say this, but it is the truth and it needs to be said. And I say it to myself all the time, but I do have a very negative way at looking at life sometimes. And I don't know where it comes from. It probably generates from my childhood and my parents. Everything I struggle with now is generating from that, but I'm trying as much as I can to use it as a lesson. But I do now realize that I look at things quite negatively sometimes. And if someone does something nice, I do find a reason why they did it. And I think, well, they only did it because of that. And then that really comes into a marriage where it's like, you got to give the other person a chance because they're really trying here. But yeah, like they're very therapeutic. This is very therapeutic for me.
But also on that note, I think you need to know that thing that they've done is a positive and is going to happen again. But also, and this is what you say sometimes, and I know you think sometimes about me, is that maybe I act as though I don't care about certain situations, or that I'm not thinking deep enough into it in a particular situation. But for me, sometimes not ignorance is bliss, but just taking the positive out of something and dumping the rest of the baggage so that you can continue with your day, your week, your month, your life in a positive attitude. Because if I take something in the morning on a race weekend, or I'm about to spend the day with you, and something happens to me, if I can just take the positive from that and go forward, everything else I'll do for the rest of the day, that will sprinkle over everything else.
Yeah, I agree. I need to do that, because otherwise my day is just messed up over something so stupid that doesn't even need to live in my mind or yours. So should we keep going with these questions?
I'm not sure.
Are you okay?
I think so.
I think you're doing great. Okay.
You just gave me a look like you're not about to be. Like, I'm about to get you.
No, I'm not trying to today. Okay. I want to talk more about your past relationships.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you list 3 things you've learned from your exes?
3 things I've learned from my exes.
See, this is why I didn't tell you the questions before. Can I borrow your water again?
Oh, so that now I can actually think about it on the spot. 3 things I've learned from my exes.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask you questions.
That you can't get time back. So I think I used to find it very easy.
That's such a good answer.
Well, no. Yeah, I used to find it very easy. Go to work, come back. And then in my head, I'd be like, what are you talking about? This is our time now. This is fine. Rather than putting myself in the other person's shoes of maybe how much were they missing me, or maybe they weren't doing the same thing I was doing on the weekend.
Are you saying you miss your exes?
All the time.
Sorry, I misheard.
No. And also because of what I do, yes, I work all the time now, but before then, I mainly worked on weekends, which is when your partner's not working. So for me, it seemed strange. Like, what are you talking about? I'm here now. And they're like, yeah, but I'm at work now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So now I only get the evenings with you.
Yeah.
So I think the second point tied into that would be then putting yourself in someone else's shoes. I didn't want to do that. I didn't like to do that. It took focus and energy out of my time. I used to see my time as 100 pennies in a bag. And if I gave up anything, I'd have to give one of those pennies away. And I want to.
Why do you think you think that way?
That I would.
Why do you feel like you think that way? You seem to think always like...
I think that was mainly racing induced, because everything derived from time, obviously.
Time is money.
Time is time. Time is getting pole position. Time is hundredths. And because it's such small margins, that means I need to be in the gym a minute longer than that person. I need to eat slightly better than that person. I need to not waste time on that person. It was very analytical, which obviously is part of now my personality because I was so ingrained with it. And in the sport I'm in, you grow up very quickly. You're forced to grow up very quickly. I'm going on planes to Asia or Australia as like a young teenager, like when you still had to be accompanied to the plane. You have your boarding pass around your neck, and
that's crazy.
Flying around the world super early for a job, carrying my helmet around. And I think that forced me to grow up very early, and maybe also numb myself very early to that stuff on the outside.
I'm here to unnumb you now.
Yeah.
I've brought all the emotions out. I'm here to torture you. Do you feel like you're actively working on yourself right now?
Yes, now. Maybe before it was more important to me to financially support us and to I prioritize things to a point where I was like, I know this is best for us in the end, so I'll work on this now, regardless of the emotional side of current happiness. Whereas I think now those things can go hand in hand. And I used to think a bit like the time situation where I'm giving one thing away to be able to do another thing. Those things can be done at the same time. I need to be, because it can't just be I can't sacrifice working on myself to do what I think is better for us in the future if there's no going to be us in future, because I've not worked on myself to give us happiness. You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel like a sacrifice of other things I'm doing for us, because me being a better person for you makes me happier anyway, because then you're happier around me. It's tough, because at the start you think, why do I have to change for this person? There's surely someone out there who loves me as I am.
Well, it's not even change as well, because it's it's definitely, and I'm not being tacky, but like it is growth, because nobody's perfect, and then everybody knows that they have their issues. But when you live on your own and you're not in a partnership, those issues don't matter. You just kind of live with them. You live with you and you're like, this is me, it doesn't matter. But then when you're in a partnership, you have to combine each other's everything, your energies, your lives, your past lives, everything has to come in together and just like be peaceful in this like space. So if you don't work on yourself, then you can't possibly be a good partner. I learned this also from our relationship, because I've been in relationships, one or two serious relationships before, and I never really thought I needed to work on myself, which is funny because I've always probably needed to work on myself, again, because of past traumas. And that trauma happened to me when I was very young. So obviously I've had this baggage along with me with all my relationships. But with us, I decided I need to find a way to dive deep into this and find out why I'm acting like this, saying this and everything. And you didn't tell me to do that. I told myself. You didn't say you need to go to therapy. So I started going to therapy for that reason, and I'm continuing to, and I'm definitely, there's no such thing as like being healed. You know, I'm still dealing with it.
Yeah, we're not a battery. We don't go up to 100%, you know.
Exactly.
There's no number.
Exactly. But let's talk about couples therapy, because we've done couples therapy before. And you have never done therapy before.
No.
Before that time?
No, alone or in a couple, no.
Alone or in a couple. And how did you find couples therapy? These are questions that I never got to ask you.
Yeah.
So
I think the main thing was that it was a space to say stuff that I don't think you'd say in the same way when it's just one-on-one. Therefore, it's...
Do you think I'm quite hard to speak to in an argument?
Yeah. But I think it's almost like a mediator, you know, someone in the middle, and so you're saying that thing you don't want to say to the other person's face to them, via them.
Yeah.
It then gets filtered and sent back to the other side of the sofa. Yeah. And also, it's someone who's present in case someone murders each other. So you stop that happening.
This is actually all... this is all me as well. My arguing style is very different than you. And this is where, again, culture, upbringing, everything comes in. You are calm-ish, but mostly calm. But compared to me, I'm the one yelling. I'm the one who's angry. I'm the one who doesn't let you speak. Now we kind of have, I think, solved that problem where you always have to bring me down to calm me down first. And that's maybe unfair on you, but I think you've now made peace with that. You're like, look, I know she's angry now, and everything she's going to say is just going to be an argument. So I'm going to get her down first to calm down. And then we sit down and we try to talk, like where we like talk. We tend to do it over dinner and like one drink, nothing crazy, and then say this, and that. I'm happy with that. I feel like we do communicate a bit better because of therapy, but I do remember our bad times where she's had to be like, make me hear the things that I'm saying, like that are just coming out of anger, that are not really true.
Yeah.
Like I remember this one time when I was saying like, you want someone else, Ollie, you want someone else. You don't want me. You're looking for someone else. And that was my own insecurity. And she said, I'm not hearing that at all. He's saying everything he has said, he's saying he wants you. But you're hearing that he wants someone else. Yeah. So why do you think that he's not wanting someone else? It's because I was insecure and felt like I was someone who's incompatible with you. And that came out, and then boom, therapist caught it. Caught it. And that's why I loved going to therapy. I was very happy that you were open to it. I have heard that men apparently just don't feel like, you know, I've heard the husbands saying to the wives, like my friends have told me this, like, I don't need therapy. The problem is really you. And that's really sad that happens. I'm very glad that you weren't that way. You were very open to kind of talking to things with me. Do you think we should still go to therapy?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think because we're so different, it made it therapy was easier to open up to me, because if this is just, I'd say a lot of people were very although I've met lots of people and traveled a lot, the people close to me were similar enough to me with similar enough views that you have a fairly tunneled way of thinking. And that's why I was always saying about networking and meeting more people, not only helping for the sport, but you understand the types of personality and people that are out there. And that's what opened me up a little bit more to therapy, because it not only does it help us, I think it helps other people we meet and life in general, and how you treat.
You mean as in it helps you understand other people's personalities
as well? Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even in turn with us, while we're going to therapy, I feel like every single time we ever do something together or do therapy or now singularly, I also do it alone now. So when we're doing that, I'm
so proud of you.
I feel like we're helping. I feel like 20% of every session we go to, some only maths for you, 20% of every session we go to is for Callie as well. Because the better we are, the better she is. And that's become a bigger and bigger part of my life, obviously from learning and understanding your background. Because as much as I shouldn't feel guilty about having a background and an upbringing that didn't have any trauma or much trauma, it is having a partner that has been through that is obviously even you're more sensitive to something that let's say, I don't know, we drop a pan or we shout at Callie or we shout at each other or say something. I know you don't like anything in front of Callie because obviously you refer to where it could escalate to, or you have it in your mind that, well, I don't mean you tell me. Like,
it's the truth though. It's the truth. Like if you fight in front of kids, no matter how young they are, trust me, they know.
Yeah.
And that's something like, I'm not just saying that because I've been through trauma. I'm saying that because I genuinely have early memories that I shouldn't have. That was like when I did cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, where basically they dive into your brain and they try to get you by communication and by talking, try to get you through conversation to talk about these memories and stuff. And then they match them up to the behavior that you have now in the present. So that's cognitive behavioral therapy. I had memories of things that happened when I was like 3, like a year older than Callie. Like we went back into the years and it's like I was in Germany or I was there. It's like I was way too young to have those memories, but I have those memories because they were so significant and obviously traumatic or just important, and they caused me to cry or they caused someone else to cry. So when we have an argument, I completely shut off if Callie's there. And yeah, I'm also learning that I tend to only think about my side in an argument. When I'm in fight or flight mode, because I've had to, in my upbringing, I had to cope by just being like protecting myself. So I had to shut myself off from the world. Now that's kind of bit me in the ass, because now in my marriage, when someone else is saying something to me, I'm reverting to this, like, let's call it a character. I'm reverting to this character that's shut off, that's protective, that's not listening, and that's just going into this like safe spot right here. If you think about it, like sitting like when I cover my ears.
Yeah.
But it's not even that bad. We don't argue that badly. It's not even a big deal. Sometimes it's about something that's in the fridge that's expired, but I've already gone into this person that I've created, these like characters that you create when you're younger, that how you cope with war, basically.
And then I'm just another person on the outside.
And then you're just another person. But I think you're finding, and I think that's where therapy comes in, is like you're finding a way to navigate that by silence. Because you used to be like, talk to me. Why are you pushing me away? Don't push me away. I want to touch you. And then I would be like, ah. And then now I think you're kind of taking a deep breath. And that really means a lot to me, because that is such a change. Because sure, I'm working on myself and I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to change as much as possible so that we can have so much more peace in our relationship. But there are things that I'm realizing now that unfortunately have been, like tattooed in, that I'm really going to struggle to get them out, which is that little girl that like has to cover her ears, or the shouter, the yeller.
Yeah.
100% can it change? Of course, 100%. But there's no quick fix, and it's like a constant battle being me. It's quite sad, actually.
I've seen a lot of progression.
I'm going to cry right now. No.
I've seen a lot of progression, and it's not something that anyone should tell you. You should just be able to fix, and it's ingrained in you from, like you're saying about CBT and the things that you remember from younger. I don't think I can remember my first 6 years.
By the way,
I might have like 3 memories.
Right. So that. Do you know Mel Robbins?
Yes.
Okay. Mel Robbins did actually a episode on that, a podcast on that. And it actually means that you do have trauma.
And I've covered it up.
You've covered it up. Because the fact of like, it literally is an episode about people who say, I don't remember anything from my childhood. And some people literally have even with cognitive behavioral therapy, they have no memories. So there's two things to that. Do you want me to tell you? It's really interesting.
Well, my youngest memory is when my brother pushed me down the stairs and I cracked my head open.
Trauma.
So maybe I don't remember anything before then because he knocked it all out of me. I don't remember it, so you can go there.
So you don't remember anything from your childhood?
No, I remember that's too generalized.
Okay, but you said that you maybe have 3 memories of your childhood because...
Yes, I think below 6.
Below 6?
Are we meant to remember that far back?
You're meant to remember...
You're acting like you're meant to remember everything.
No, it's not that you're meant to remember, but you should have more memories than you do.
I have little snippets, and the memories that I do have are so vivid. And like I can picture the color of the carpet and exactly what happened and the expressions and the sound of like super random, what I would consider irrelevant. I don't know, maybe someone will unpack them and they'll be super relevant.
Do you want to you should probably unpack them because, and I'm sorry to say should because it's none of my business, but maybe you might find it helpful. See, marriage talk. Mel Robbins, one of my favorite humans and very inspiring author and podcaster, she said that actually it could be one of 2 reasons. There is the second one's super interesting, so I'm going to start with it. When your parents speak about other siblings' memories and things that have gone down with them consistently, it ends up shading your memories of yourself. And your parents totally do that. There's one kid that they talk about all the time. And apparently growing up with that shades your, compromises your memory of your own. That's what she said. I didn't say it. But apparently that's one of the reasons. So if you're constantly growing up around siblings that are being talked about in the family and the stories are constantly coming up, you start to completely dissociate and disconnect from your own. Because it's basically become more... prevalent that is what everybody else has given attention to. Never would I have guessed that, but when she said that, I was like, that is so fucking interesting. And the other one is if you actually really have been through some stuff, not been through trauma, like it doesn't have to be like the shit, you know, that really deep, crazy, like you've got a lovely family, but there are some things maybe you genuinely didn't want to remember. So not remembering childhood memories doesn't mean that everything was fine.
No, I don't think maybe that's necessarily what it means.
Are you just evaluating your whole life right now?
I'm trying really hard to think of like outside of the memories I always know that I remember. But no, but I also think I just have a really bad memory.
Do you think we spent too much money on our wedding?
Yes. 100%.
What was the most memorable thing about it? Because obviously
of the bills. No, I'm kidding. I'm going. The most memorable thing of it.
Obviously, they're all memorable, but is there just like one moment?
Callie walking up to me.
Oh my God.
Callie walking up to me because
that was so sweet. Those are her first steps.
2 things, 3 things, 4. No, I'm thinking of them all. The first 2 I thought of were Callie because they were pretty much her longest. No, they were her longest steps today. They weren't her first steps. She'd done a few. And we were like, I wonder if she was fairly late. I don't know what's late or early as a walker, whatever. For my philosophy, and I think yours always also, is they'll walk when they can walk, they can talk when they can talk, and they can do, she's never going to be 20 and can't count and can't walk. So we never rushed any of that, did we? It happened when it happened. But yeah, she walked up to me down the aisle.
That was so sweet.
Never thought that'd be a thing to have at the wedding. And not once... This is interesting, actually. Maybe it's less of a thing now, but certainly for old school English families in the past, you get married, then you have a kid.
Yeah.
We had a kid at our wedding, which when you're really young, or at least in my life, and probably in your life as well, because obviously, because of the culture and places you lived.
That was my dream, though.
Yeah, but it's not meant to be that. Yeah. It's not the norm. But I didn't think twice about that at the wedding. The other one was when you effectively told the minister to shut it because he was talking about stuff he didn't like
for way too long.
He was so sweet and really nice.
Sweet.
We thought when he came to speak to us that the questions he was asking were for him to have a background on us, not as information and material for his stand-up act.
so mad.
Anyway, we're deviating.
Because I was so mad. He took so long, and he was talking about Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, just get on with it. And I really do wish that he didn't, because I walked in, I looked your eyes, and it was such a beautiful moment, and I wanted to just process it. If it was up to me, we would have had, like, this is so bad, but like the moment of silence.
I know what you mean.
Wanted no one to say anything.
I would have just about to say silence.
Me and you hold hands for a minute, listen to the song. It's our favorite song on the violin.
I wish there was a way in weddings where you could have
birds chirping.
Exactly that, with the band behind and the view that we had, maybe for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then everyone walks in and sits down and we're already there.
Yeah.
Then you've had your moment, and then the bit's for everyone else, isn't it? Because really it's for everyone else in the end.
In the end, yeah.
So those two, and then the kiss, because apparently we had the world's longest altar kiss.
Yes, we did.
Which,
I wanted
as
to
it
gross
was
everyone
happening,
out. I really
felt
wanted
like
everyone.
the world's shortest kiss.
Oh.
And I had no idea afterwards when there was a few remarks. I was like, what? Genuinely time froze.
Care. Yeah,
literally
time froze. Yeah. I wanted to gross everyone out. I don't know why. I was like, come here and get me everything. It was amazing. I was like, I really just wanted to kiss you like forever. But that was another thing of me taking the moment of silence. Like that was me taking a moment just to process. Like you don't even get time to process anything. It was like blink and it's gone, and then you're it was just like, honestly, if I would want to redo this every year, me and you. We somehow find a string quartet somewhere and just have a slow dance.
The day after that we did was amazing. I
just gave you a hint for the next date. Make sure you write that down.
The day that we had the day after was just a great idea. And actually that didn't feel rushed at all. And I feel like I remember that day really well. Yeah. The actual wedding day,
went too quickly.
Went way too quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask you when we were talking about... when we were talking about relationships, and if you thought I ever had the one, is when you were asking, I should have asked you back when you asked me about did you always want to get married, and I've put a similar question to you as did you always dream of kind of like that fairy tale life, or did you prefer to at some point we were like, I just want to go and live life alone, I just want to do my own thing, or did you always want to have someone that was gonna not look after you but be there with you and support you?
Ooh. And we're going to wrap with this? Oh, God.
Well, no, this is why I'm saying I shouldn't start asking
No. You're doing the right thing. I mean, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. A lot of times in my life, I've learned to be on my own, right? That's how I've grown up. That's how I've been. I've strengthened myself so much to be on my own, almost too much, that if somebody comes too close in, then I kind of like revert to isolating myself. And that's wrong. I'm learning now not to do that as much as possible. I do love my own space. And I did at one point before meeting you and after I broke up with my ex when I was single, think if I'm successful and I'm doing what I like, I don't understand why I would want to share this with anyone else, which is such a bad thing to think.
And that's what I was thinking when you were talking about like fuck boys earlier on, or how I was thinking, well, in a way, a small part of me thought that if you were or doing your own thing at that point, if you hadn't sold part of the business that you're already involved with, or you were still involved with that, maybe that would be you. Maybe that would be what you'd want. You don't have to get too emotional with someone. You can have someone every now and then.
I have an answer to that, and again, from learning a lot about myself in the past, I'd say 5 years, and from studying and researching and from writing my own TED Talk, like having my story in front of me,
which we've not even spoken about, by the way.
We've not even spoken about.
Extremely proud of you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love that you're proud of me. I wish you were there.
I was that too.
I now know that I actually don't do well on my own. I think I learned that from being with you, because I feel when I'm with you, I feel safe and empowered and I feel comfortable. When I'm alone, I have a lot of anxious moments. I overthink. I have no one to grab me back, to pull me back from that deep hole. I do obviously have been diagnosed with clinical depression before, so I do have depressive tendencies. And those things all match up to maybe you do need somebody to hold your hand. And I think if I was that person that when I was younger and crazy and thought, oh my God, I just want to be successful and live on my own and be independent and blah, blah, if I even if I had all those things, I would have realized very, very quickly that money and materialistic stuff and validation from work or people respecting me is still not going to be the hand that's going to hold my hand at the end of the night. Because that is what makes me feel safe. I mean, I've grown up feeling so unsafe for so long. Then now when I get that feeling of like feeling safe and comfortable, I know it so quickly. And when I feel it, I'm like, and I only feel that by being next to you. So I would have dreamt about it, but it wouldn't have been the right thing to dream about.
Which is a double-edged sword in the sense that I now hold that responsibility in a sense.
Yeah.
So I can't.
It's almost like you can't have your moments because.
No, it's not that. I can't lose the trust of. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. No, I'm sure it's what you're about to say as well, but it's that I can't abuse that trust of what that person is. And also I now bear a lot of responsibility of maybe people you didn't have in your life that should have treated you like X, Y, and Z. And I feel like I do play more of a role than just a husband. And maybe every husband should. And that's fine by me.
And I think that's your struggle as somebody who's in a partnership with, who's in a marriage with somebody who's been through these things. It's almost like you have to learn how to love me, because maybe loving someone else would be a lot easier or different, or it would come along a lot easier. But there's obviously like a lot of things that, like you said, you have to wear a lot of hats. You do hold a big responsibility. And unfortunately, because a lot of people have lost my trust, if that is ever damaged, then sometimes coming back from that is really difficult, which is why we've had our ups and downs. Because even if it's something small that other people that might deal with, normally, it always feels like a big hit for me. So yeah, it's tough, but I definitely know that I want to be independent, but I don't like being without somebody to have this. I can't imagine having no family and no you. I love you so much, my best friend, my rock, my everything. Thank you so much for coming onto my podcast. We still don't have a name because I'm so indecisive, and I genuinely feel like my heart is telling me the name will come up in the next few episodes.
Yes, yeah, and that's what we were saying. I've flown back just for this. I landed from Italy this morning, and I leave tomorrow.
Yeah, because you're such an amazing support system, and I really appreciate that. I love talking to you today. I just
really wanted some knefe. That's why I actually came back.
Knefe, yes.
Have you got some at home?
No.
Oh,
let's go get knefe tonight for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Knefe and The Office. That's our guilty pleasure.
Amazing.
Watching The Office and eating knefe. I love you so much. Thank you for being on my podcast. I can't wait for you to come back. Yeah. Let's go pick up Callie.
Let's go get Callie, our daughter.
Bye.